Live now. Welcome to all the listeners. This is once again your host Shailesh, bringing you different people from different perspective, but also all community-driven people. And today, I have the pleasure to invite Rahul Chopra, who is absolutely a grounded, community-driven person, but also been in this community work for a number of years. He has seen the politics very closely. He has seen the community people very closely. And I am today having this pleasure to talk to him for his visions for these elections in terms of what are his priorities, what are his ideas to make this country, our nation, a better nation. He is standing as a ACT candidate in Mount Roskill with another candidates of Labour, Michael Wood, and also Sue Ween from Green. So it's going to be very, very interesting, and Carlos from National Party. So there is going to be very interesting, but I think we'll have to have more visions from Rahul because he can talk to us more about what his idea of our nation is. So welcome, Rahul, to this episode of our next episode that we are going to talk to you about the visions. And this is an election year. So first of all, thank you very much for taking the time out from all your busy schedule in terms of the campaigning that you must be going through. So I welcome you. Tell us something about yourself a little bit for my listeners and viewers so that we understand from you and why you chose this path at this time in this very critical time. And you have taken this bold responsibility of making a difference. And I really appreciate that. So let's talk to you. Let's tell us something about what triggered you.
Good morning, Shailesh, and good morning to your listeners as well, who are either watching us live or may watch us later.
Mm.
So, like you said in my introduction, I've been a person who has served the community for quite some time.
Mm.
But I'll start from the time I arrived in New Zealand. So my arrival was as a student in 2004. I came here to study. Worked with a bank for about 3.5 years in financial services before studying for a master's in public policy from Auckland University. That particular course or qualification allowed me to pitch for jobs or a career in public policy.
Mhm.
And my first job where I still work is with parliamentary services.
Mm.
I worked with the Kanwaljit Singh Bakshi, former national member of parliament for 8.5 years,
Right.
serving the local community in Manukau East then and Panmure Otahu, who elected now. And for the past almost 2.5 years, I have worked very closely with David Seymour,
Mm.
the leader of ACT Party.
Mm.
Um, in addition to my role with the parliamentary services and David, I also sit on the board of three organizations: Carbon and Energy Professionals, Life Cycle Association of New Zealand, and the Department of Conservation.
Right.
Why do I share this? Is because um, based on my qualification, my skills, and my governance experience being on boards, I was
Mm.
encouraged by my leader in my party to stand as a candidate.
Mm.
In terms of my value system and why I chose ACT, well, there were three big or broad reasons. One, when I arrived in this nation state, uh, um, what I found was this is a very peaceful and crime-free country to live in. There was the odd burglary or whatever, but nothing as serious as what we see around the community at the moment.
Mm. Sure.
Um,
Mm.
so the problem of crime is there. Of course, all of us want to talk about crime, but only a few of us, in my view, have practical solutions.
Mm.
ACT has practical solutions around it.
Mm.
So suppose if I talk to you about what happened in New Windsor in the electorate of Mount Roskill yesterday,
Yes.
is
Yeah.
basically
Mm.
uncalled for. Basically,
Mm.
you have a small business owner who's running their business very quietly,
Mm.
serving the community from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
But you have someone who has nothing better to do in life but
Mm.
go and stab this hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding citizen.
Yeah.
In terms of the solutions being proposed by ACT, I guess we will talk about it
We'll
in
talk.
detail
We'll talk
later.
about that. Yeah, we'll get into that crime issues. But let's talk first about your visions. I mean, you have seen overall that for development, for betterment of every single person who is living in this country. What are your values and views on that, and what difference are you going to make? Because you have seen as you said, you have been working closely with the National Party ex-MP Kamaljit Bakshi, so you have seen closely very much. So do you think the policies that of different parties makes a difference, or do you think the lifestyle or the work style that they bring to the table to run the country or to govern the country rather than running the country? What what are your values and visions in terms of what you have seen so far, and what you will gonna make difference to this role that you are going to hold,
Hmm.
basically?
So, I mean, like you said, I've worked,
Yeah,
in the community and the public policy area for quite some time.
yeah,
Um, I think New Zealand stands at an inflection point where we need to decide whether we would like to, adapt
mm,
and basically accept that we are a free market nation state.
mm, yeah,
Until of course there is acceptance that we are a free market nation state where the markets have played a critical role.
yeah,
um, and there's a bit of a history to that, Shailesh.
mhm,
1984 is when the great restructure had to take place.
right,
Labour Party was the one that initiated that great restructure of the country because the economic situation was very, very bad.
right,
The interest rates, I think, from what I could remember, were at 25%.
mm-hmm,
Imagine paying 25% on your mortgage. That's
right,
how bad the coffers of the treasury were.
mm, mm,
If I were to fast forward it to today,
yeah,
act and I accept that due to COVID there had to be
mm,
stimulus provided by the government of the day to the businesses.
mm,
But what happened after that was mindless money printing.
mm-hmm,
Mindless money printing that has got us from, if I talk to you about mortgages that my friends have, from
yeah,
3% interest rate to the current stress testing of
like,
10%.
yeah, 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 true,
and
mm-hmm,
and you are being a chartered accountant and being
yeah,
a
yeah,
very keen person in economic affairs will first and understand that
yes,
when you raise that interest rate, what it does is it takes away the disposable income.
absolutely, yeah,
As soon as the income goes, the economic cycle that runs the country or
mm,
that churns the country. So if I were to talk to you about my family, we have to make decisions based on how much
mm,
disposable income we have, whether we can go on a holiday locally,
mm,
internationally, whether we can go for a movie, for example, or even
mm,
for a meal in
mm,
the evening. So all
yeah,
this will start to affect the economic cycle that we are currently in.
true,
Uh,
true, very
in
true.
terms of solutions that ACT proposes, or in terms of what values we bring to the table, we
Mm,
say we have a fully costed alternative budget to the one proposed by the current government. We
yeah,
say we can cut wasteful spending, we
yeah,
can redirect that spending towards our education, our healthcare, and other critical areas such as policing. We were talking about crime in the last question. So
mm,
until of course we depoliticize, how we fund the police, we
mm,
need to provide them consistency in regards to population growth. So if the population of Auckland as a city is 1.2 million people, we
mm.
need to make sure we have enough police in the ground to support that population. We are not against rehabilitating people, but that cannot happen at the cost of people who are law abiding and tax paying citizens.
Mm. Right, right. So the cost of living, you mentioned, this is a good point that you mentioned, and since you are in that policy and also understand the economics. So cost of living is one of the burning issues because of the inflation, because of the bank interest. As you said, the disposable income has been completely gone down. Tell me something about, so your focus will be not generating income, but cutting down the wasteful spending. That's what you said. So your focus is on the cost cutting in terms of reducing all the wasteful, whatever you feel or whatever your party feels that this is where the whole issues are. Let's cut down the cost and then give that money back. But will that happen, and will that be generating enough to dispose the income? That's my question to you, was in terms of the cost of living. Will it make an impact by doing that?
Hmm. So, I mean, governance is not as simple as you do X equal
Yeah,
to Y, and you get,
true. Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
outcome you would like. Uh,
Mm,
that is one part of the puzzle.
mm,
The part of the puzzle is to cut down wasteful spending and redirect that
absolutely.
spending in areas of need. That's like I mentioned.
Yeah.
We need to create infrastructure, whether it's a roading, whether it's our
Yeah.
schools, whether it's a hospital. But
Mm,
then we are also going to create a ministry of regulation.
mm,
Then the title or the name is Ministry of Regulation. The mandate
mhm.
given to it will be that you look at unnecessary compliance measures put out on small and medium sized businesses. So
Yeah.
they can, rather than invest their time and energy into filling paperwork,
Mm,
they should invest their time into economic growth of their own business, and by that measure the economic growth of the country, New Zealand.
right.
And I'll give you a good example. This happened when there was this big inquiry with regards to the duopoly of pack and save and
Yeah.
countdown. Um,
Mm,
Now, in our view, and we have data to support this view,
mhm.
that this was an uncalled for inquiry. We created jobs for people who basically provided us with the responses that we already know. That until, of course, we reform the Resource Management Act, and
Yeah.
I have seen this being talked about year after year by leaders of all political parties. That until, of course, we reform the RMA,
Yeah.
we won't have that kind of investment coming in. A
Mm,
case in point was IKEA, the Swiss furniture maker.
mm,
They put in a resource management application, which was in the machinery for 5 years.
mm, mm.
Again, I'll say that someone who has worked not only as a chartered accountant and an economic expert in New Zealand, but across many countries, Shailesh, you
Mm,
will know firsthand the flight of capital doesn't wait for 5 years.
mm, mm,
If you put such kind of compliance hurdles, the
mm,
chances that the of, your capital, your international capital particularly, will fly very quickly. 5 years is a very long time.
mm,
I mean, we have to create market competition so that the consumer has a choice. If we look at Australia,
mm,
the consumer has more than two supermarkets that they can go to if they want to source products,
mm,
and this is where they can have real savings that they can then use for their leisure or just save money for the future.
mm, mm. Okay. So coming to your local, making a difference in the local communities and social economic, as we are in the hardest time, do you think your social economic policies will also be quite aligned to the and resonate with the current situation that you're bringing? Or is it more
um,
focused on only on the economy, basically?
no, absolutely not. Mount Roskill is an aspirational and ambitious electorate. It is
Yeah.
the most diverse electorate that we have in New Zealand.
Mm,
um, with the diversity, of course, you have multiplicity of views.
mm,
That multiplicity of views also tells us that people have to put in a lot of time and effort to land up in New Zealand or reach New Zealand. If I
mm.
were to give you just my example, my student visa application was 250 pages.
Right,
So
right.
that tells you the amount of time and effort and even money that is invested to just make an application to reach here.
Mm,
Once you reach here, of course, at the back of your brain, you have that I have the skills, the knowledge, the know-how to contribute,
mm.
not just to myself, my family, or my community, but to the nation state that I moved to as well.
Yeah.
So a good example of what Mount Roskill can offer and should offer, and can be a case or a basket case for New Zealand, is a enterprise which is run by 4 engineers out of Arundel Street in Mount Roskill.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what they do is they, within a garage operation, much like how Apple and Microsoft started in the States,
Yeah.
they 3D print models,
Mm-hmm.
and then program these, which are then given to space agencies or and the University of Auckland as well.
Mm,
Um, by no means we are saying that people who have had intergenerational poverty should be ignored.
mm,
They need to be supported, but that support needs to be supported by scientific evidence.
mm,
If we are all we are doing is um, you know uh, investing hard working taxes into policies or programs that do not provide any returns to us, there's little point in continuing with the program.
yeah.
The fee free first year university that the current government has implemented
Mm.
was basically put in place to encourage people to go to university.
Right.
We have data to support that that has not helped. Perhaps a better alternative, and this is my view.
Mhm.
I do not know,
Of course.
yeah, what may happen or may not happen in the future. A
Yeah.
better view may have been if you complete 4 years of university or 3 years of university.
Mhm.
Once you have completed it, we'll refund 1 year fee back to you.
Mhm. Mhm.
That may have been a better stimulus for anybody to go and earn the education, earn the skills, become a contributing member of the society, establish themselves for a career, and give back to New Zealand.
Right. Right. Now that's can be different views of different people, but in terms of if I had to ask you today, the way we are living in, the education is important, health is important. These are the three aspects, and the housing, three things, right? One of the three things that's couple of both major parties has been dwelling talking, but their style and their way of working is different in terms of looking at things. What you think you can contribute to these three aspects, which is the health, education, as you rightly said, and the housing, which is completely due to the climate change, due to the climatic floods and all that in Auckland particularly, and also Mount Roskill, where you are standing, has been affected as well. What are the things and immediate measures that you think you need to do, we need to do to actually handle this, so that everybody is not ignored or it's not left out,
Hmm,
basically,
hmm.
from
So
that?
I spoke a little bit about education and health earlier. So I'll start with housing this time.
Mhm.
Um, the ACT Party, we like I said to you, we have problems, but we are the only political party, in my view, which also provides solutions to those problems.
Mhm.
In terms of housing, what we are saying is
Mhm.
currently,
Mhm.
whatever GST gets collected from, suppose you want to build a new house,
Yeah.
you put in the resource consent application, and whatever applications after, the
Yeah.
GST is transferred over to the central government.
Mm. Mm.
We say, rather than pay the central government the entire GST amount, we share it with the local council, be it Auckland Council or be it any council across New Zealand.
Mhm.
That provides councils with the incentives to fasten the process to grant consent applications. That
Right.
also provides them with the incentive to build infrastructure locally.
Mhm.
So, and um, intensification may be one way of dealing with it, but releasing more land for housing,
Absolutely.
particularly
Absolutely.
when you're growing in size. And we
Mhm.
have seen it in Mumbai, we have seen it in
Yeah.
Sydney, we have
Yeah.
seen it in Melbourne, we have seen it in London. You name the city,
Yeah.
the solution has to be holistic. You cannot say, well, I won't allow this to happen. If we condense it, uh,
Mm.
uh, the excuse is we don't have infrastructure. The reason we don't have infrastructure is because councils do not want to invest money or don't have the money to invest.
Mhm.
This is one practical solution in our view, to
Mm.
provide councils the incentive so that they can make that investment not just now but for the future as well.
Right.
Uh,
Mhm.
Again, a good analogy or an example that I can give you is our infrastructure that I spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
Be it our stormwater, be it our
Yeah.
roads, be
Yeah.
it anything that you look at around you
Mm.
is cracking at the moment.
Mm. Mm.
We seem to be talking. I mean, 10 years is a long time to talk about such issues when you have um, talent who can probably help you with that
Yes.
practical talent, right? Um,
Mm.
Again, if I move to education, well,
Mm.
COVID, again, the base has to be strong. Otherwise, whatever you do in terms of your post schooling studies, you won't achieve much.
Mm.
And that is very relevant if I talk to you about what happened during COVID and the schooling that went into it.
Yes.
Uh, a number of parents and their children, of course, were scared because of what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But once things normalized,
Mm-hmm.
parents and children still remained a bit skeptical,
Mm.
and that led to truancy or students being absent from
Absolutely.
schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it is our view that we have no business telling schools or parents, why their child is absent. Of course, there may be genuine reasons like health or whatever
Mm.
that is.
Mm-hmm.
We say that we provide funding based on the equity index to schools.
Mm-hmm.
Using that funding, they can appoint a truancy officer, engage an NGO,
Mm-hmm.
or take necessary steps that they believe will help students return back to school. And
Right.
this may be as simple as student
Mm-hmm.
not having a uniform to wear to school. The schools can use that funding towards providing that uniform, so the student doesn't
Right.
feel stigmatized.
Yeah. 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 So
And
basically, what you're saying, suggesting was it would have been a good attempt if rather than depending on schools and the parents, there could be a third party regulation who can intervene and to make sure that the attendance are going to be because after COVID, obviously the mindset and the mental issues were all quite different, and the parents themselves don't know, or the schools don't know what government directions are and going to be. They were caught up. So you think by adding a layer for someone to bridge that gap between the schools and the parents, the kids could have increased their attendance, is something like that? Is that what you're suggesting? Or
what Act is suggesting is we empower the local community, we empower the local schools,
yeah.
because like you said,
Hmm.
I'm sitting in my office, bureaucrats are sitting in their offices in Wellington.
True.
We have no way of finding out whether the child is mentally well or not, whether there's an issue on the ground. That
True.
is something that only the school principal, the school teachers, and the parents know. And
Yes.
the parents should have full trust in the school to
Mm,
discuss these issues with the school.
mm,
And we are talking about empowering schools with
right.
the money from the equity index calculations.
Mm. And
And
giving them the support, basically.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I got it. Yeah. No, no,
Mm.
that makes sense, Rahul. And I think that everybody needed a support, but support in the right direction and the way of supporting is important. Yeah,
Correct.
everybody can support, but whether that support is effective, impactful or not, that's the key, right?
And one quick point about health. Um,
Mhm.
so we are clearly struggling in terms of being able to provide medical professionals,
Mm.
GPs, expert doctors, specialists, nurses, you name it. We are lacking that.
Yeah.
So we ACT is the only political party that says we should be able to recognize skills, medical skills, doctors, nurses from equitable jurisdictions.
Mm.
We will empower the Minister of Health to basically, if the person is matching in terms of their qualification, meets the criteria, but
Mhm.
if there is a minor hurdle, then the Minister of Health should have the ability to say, yes, you have met most of the criteria, you should
Mm.
be allowed to practice in New Zealand.
Right.
And that Mount Roskill, where I've been
Yeah.
campaigning in the electorate, I've met a number of migrant doctors and migrant medical professionals who can
Mhm.
offer so much of their skills,
Mm.
help us solve the crisis of shortages in our hospitals, in our GP clinics,
GP
that
clinic.
are currently either driving Uber or doing jobs that are below their skill base.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
I mean, we are trying to encourage them into skills that they already have and can be utilized for New Zealand.
Right. Right.
In terms of the GP funding, we will increase it by 13%. What
Mhm.
that means is approximately, if I can get the figure right so that I don't misquote myself, give me 1 second.
That's okay. Figures basically, I wanted to have the right direction, what your party's direction is towards this.
Yes. So 13% of the equivalent of 2.5 million visits, GP visits per year for New Zealand.
Right.
So these are some practical policy solutions
Practical.
that we have.
Mm. Basically, reaching the patients or reaching the problems is more important than just talking about the problems, isn't it?
That's
Just
right. That's
you
right.
have to
I
reach
mean,
problems. Yeah.
if I can give you a practical example, I was at a community event about
Mhm.
2 weeks back.
Mhm.
I met this 70-year-old lady, and she
Mhm.
said, I've been waiting 2.5 years to get a knee surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first point of the surgery is, but the GP has recommended that I get an ultrasound. It's been a repeat request from the GP for the past 2.5 years to get an ultrasound and
Mm.
forget the surgery.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
and of course, the system is that we don't have that expertise in the country. That's why we have fewer specialists who can operate.
Yeah.
We need to do better. We need to think better. We need to implement solutions that are for the community, by the community, rather than someone sitting in Wellington.
No, I agree. There is a lot of wait times, and that's what the National Party is talking about, that we will fund it, but we will try to focus on the wait time, surgery time, and the effective, immediate response, whether it's ED, whether it is attention to the critical patients or non-critical patients, all those kind of things. That's what they are talking about, basically. So when funding is there, definitely is required for health sector more, plus also manpower, whether it's doctors, whether it's nurses, whether it's health sector people. But in terms of what you think is the lack of infrastructure that we had from number of years, and I think it's only was apparent and obvious during COVID that we are having so much lack of many things. Now, to sort out everything, we still need this funding for the infrastructure, whether it is building hospitals, building schools, building all the clinics and all sorts of things. What's your view on that? Is that investment also going to be done at the same time that you are handling these issues, your party going to handle?
Absolutely. So I spoke about the fully costed alternative budget we have.
Yeah.
We will prioritize investment in the area of needs.
Mm.
And health is a need. It is not a
Sure.
want. It is not a luxury. It is something that
Sure.
if you or I fall sick, we need to be able to see a GP. We don't have to. I
Mm.
remember when I arrived in 2004, if I were to go and meet my local GP, I can pretty much get an appointment the same day.
Mm.
If
Mm.
I were to try that now, the next appointment will probably be at least a week or 10 days away.
Absolutely.
Do
Yeah.
you think you can sustain yourself for 10 days if you're sick?
No, no, that's right. When
And
the fire is done. Mm.
imagine the productivity loss that happens if you are sick, you're not able to get direction from the GP to
Mm.
have the right medication. I mean, I don't think I can quantify that for you. You are an expert in that
No,
field.
no. So just on that subject, what are your views on the Pharmac? I heard something about Pharmac Act is planning to do, where because every party is because that's one of the major player in health when it comes to the access to drugs, the access to treatment, and then sanctioning those medicines and drugs to make available for everyone for all types of needs and issues and sickness. Do you think there is a lot needs to be done in terms of Pharmac that we have been continuingly traditionally as a status quo we have been handling, and it's all of a sudden we are finding there's all these issues are there. So one is wait listing and all that, but also the other thing is drugs and access to medicines. That's also another thing. And then people are letting die because there is no funding for a particular drug or particular cancer or particular thing. What is going to do with your act is going to look into this Pharmac and the issues of this related to that, basically, to give access more to the patients, to the people. What?
Um,
Mm.
well, if I'll be honest with you, I'm not fully across with our policy on
Sure,
pharma.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but
But in your visions, like suppose in Mount Roskill, you are talking to people, you said to me that there are lots of people who are waiting, like who are on the 1 year wait list, 2 year wait list, or whatever, 6 months they have been waiting and they're not getting treated, or even simple appointments to GP and X-rays and MRI scans and all sort. That's also is a big longer queue for that. So from that point of view, there has, in your view, in your vision, what do you like to bring to the attention to your party and to everyone that we want to do something to the community, basically?
so I mean, I can talk to you in a very simplistic
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
analogy or
That's your
example.
visions, basically. Yeah.
If we look at Australia, the reason that Australia is able to provide much better, I guess, salaries or wages to doctors and able to fund more medicines than New Zealand is
Mm-hmm.
because of the size of the economy.
right?
And that is the fundamental way we believe that we can address shortages, whether it's in the area of funding medicines or being able to pay our medical professionals better, is to grow our economy, to cut wasteful spending, to invest in futuristic areas, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's
Mm,
technology, whether it's civil services, or infrastructure services. Um, that is the only way we think we can increase the investment in the right area, so that we have more money at our disposal.
mm,
We provide targeted tax relief to people.
mm.
We cut wasteful spending, and we redirect the money into areas of critical needs, be it, like I said,
Absolutely.
medicine
Yeah.
or medical professionals.
Yeah, yeah. So I think so that's why I start to wonder that is it people talk about, oh, the system is failing or the health system is absolutely appalling and all of that when we look at wait list and all that. But in terms of is it the system failure, or is it the lack of staff, or is it the lack of intelligence, or is it lack of care that we have identified? I am really don't know, but what do you think in your view that this is a combination of everything, or is it something that the system that has failed, or is it the people are not enough to handle, or is there no kind of a proper intelligence to take care of the people? What is lacking in this whole environment to come
Uh,
into that stage basically?
sure. I'll
Mm.
at the start of our conversation,
Yeah,
you asked me a question that why did I join ACT,
yeah,
in
yeah,
comparison to having worked in this space for a good 12 years now.
absolutely, yeah,
So,
yeah.
this question, I would like to link it to my response, which I couldn't give it
Hmm.
to you in full earlier because of we
Hmm.
were moving on to the next
Sure.
question. So
Yeah,
the reason I'm standing for ACT is because I believe New Zealanders want real change, rather
absolutely.
than the same stale choice of the Labour or the National Party. But
Hmm.
we are but with a party that has a proven track record that will bring fresh ideas to New Zealand's governance.
Mm.
um, I spoke about my movement to New Zealand in 2004.
Yeah.
um, and I would like to say that the fairness and equality that prevailed in New Zealand at that time, I've seen that erode.
Mm.
um,
Mm.
and you and I both have lived in the India of the 1990s, and we firsthand know
Absolutely.
how this leads to a division of the society.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
if
Yeah.
I were to talk to you about the future generations, be it my daughter or
Mm.
the future generations of New Zealand, this is concerning.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Mm.
I spoke about crime,
Yeah.
and I would also like to speak about the role that my parents played in providing me with education, values, and skills, so that
Mm-hmm.
I'll become a responsible citizen who can
Mm.
contribute with my skills, with my taxes to the society.
Mm. Mm.
But at the moment, what we see is a number of Kiwis are struggling to meet their ends meet, and
Yeah.
we
Absolutely.
spoke about this earlier as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's disheartening to face this constant challenge. It can be on a daily or a weekly basis, or it can be just an elongated
Yeah.
uh, intergenerational challenge as well.
Mm.
So the issues that we have on our hand, Shailesh, are crime, cost of living, and
Yeah.
co-governance. And
Yeah.
based on my experience and based on what my party uh, spoken to many people over the time,
Mhm. Mm.
these three issues are a result of the tired policies of both major political parties.
So
Uh,
that's why change was what you are saying, a new perspective.
a real change is what we are
Uh-huh.
focusing on. And
Mm.
basically, what has happened is these both political parties have fostered a culture of being complacent, being mediocre,
Mm.
rather than of
Mm.
aspiration and
Mm.
ambition. Um,
Yeah.
and so, in I guess, in conclusion, if I can say to you that
Yeah.
if you would like a New Zealand where I moved to,
Mm-hmm.
a safe country where running a business is not plagued by fear,
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
unlike what happened unfortunately at the New Windsor Dairy again yesterday,
Yeah.
where providing for your family doesn't require sacrificing your arm and leg,
Mm.
then I urge you and
Mm.
your voters to
Yeah.
vote for real change, to party vote act.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And just on that, since we didn't complete the crime, what is your solution that ACT Party is going to do to handle and tackle this crime? Just
Hmm.
one simple thing, and then we will conclude basically. But tell
So,
me, because this is very
one,
important. This is very important because one, the access, I mean, the violence that has created physical violence through this channel, through this crime. As you said before, the crime was only thief and burglary and all that, but now it is like physical harm.
hmm,
And being a social welfare state, our country, why this is happening is a big $1 million question again that we will dwell again sometime. But
hmm,
as a party, what you're going to do to handle currently so that you can minimize this risk of harm, physical harm, basically.
hmm. So, um, one, I spoke about this earlier. We need to depoliticize policing.
Mm,
If our population is rising, we
mm,
need to make sure we have police numbers in ratio or in proportion of that population growth.
yeah.
Um, Second is we will amend the Sentencing Act. It has 10 principles in it. 5 are administrative, 4 are offender centric. We
Mm,
would like to change that to victim centric, so that victim, again, as we speak to you locally from a Mount Roskill perspective,
mm,
you may
mm,
have heard about the case of Janki Dairy in Mount Albert Road.
yes, yes.
The lady, she was working in her store. Her house is at the back.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody came and hit her with a hammer. Well,
Mm,
if somebody does that, we would like the judiciary to take cognizance of it, and we would like them to use that incident as a part of the sentencing, so that the people who commit the crime face the consequences.
sure.
I would like to really stress here that we are not against rehabilitation.
Mm,
We are all for rehabilitation, but not at the cost of people who are working hard and paying their taxes, who are
right,
law abiding citizens. We believe rehabilitation needs to take place in prisons, so that
right.
once you are away from the community is safe, but at the same time, you're picking up skills like having a driver's license, training into a trade like a plumbing or a building trade
Mm,
before you are being released, so that once you go back into the community, you become a contributing member of a lawful society rather than be a part of the problem.
right, right. That's great. Thank you, Rahul. And as to all the listeners, as you can see, Rahul is very passionate. He talks very passionate about the crime, which is the burning issue, but also he talks about the cost of living and the social economic issues and the housing and the floods that he is going to make a difference in Mount Roskill. So I wish him very good luck for his campaign, and we will make sure if we don't know, he can come and he can come back again as a minister. So, but Rahul, thank you so much for doing this with us. And I think this is definitely a change. And what you described, the change is change for a not a tired way of traditional status quo, what these two big major political parties, as you said, has been doing. But you wanted to have a change in a new perspective, new change. Which people can really feel that there is a change happening rather than there is no change. So I take your word on that. But yeah, good luck. Final message for all the listeners and voters who has got still time to vote, but please make your message to the listeners.
Hmm. So again, if you, like me, would want to restore the New Zealand that I once believed in, a safe country where running a business is not plagued by fear, where providing for your family doesn't require you sacrificing your arm and leg, where we have aspiration and ambition, and which is welcomed by one and all, where equality exists, where egalitarian society actually does exist, then I urge you to join me in voting for real change to Party Vote Act. And
Great.
with that, Shailesh, thank you for your
Yeah.
time. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to your listeners, uh, particularly those who are in Mount Roskill.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and thank you for your blessings in saying I may come back as a minister one day.
Yes. No, good luck. Thank you so much, Rahul. I know you will do your best, and I know you have a right heart for all the people. So I know you as well. So that's good. So all the listeners, once again, please make sure that you vote, whether you like Rahul or not, but you vote because your right is to exercise your vote. And I think that will make a difference to you, not to the any political parties, but it will make a difference to you. So after listening to ACT, other people, please make an informed decision, but please go and vote. Thank you so much. Yes, Rahul.
Thank you, Shailesh.
Once again,